Velkommen il R2Kast Number 9. Was that terrible, Pálína?
No, I heard 9.
So I got one thing, I got a number right.
Well, at least that. Keep going.
Well, that was literally the welcome to R2Kast number 19 was what I tried to say there.
Okay.
Velkommen il R2Kast Number 9.
Yeah.
Ish. It's terrible, isn't it? You can tell me if it's terrible.
No, it was not awful. It could have been better, obviously, but it was pretty good. Number 9.
Oh, perfect. Well, could you say welcome to R2Kast number 19 for us?
And what is the third word? R2Kast.
So it's R2Kast, which is just the name of the podcast.
R2Kast. Velkommen i R2Kast number 9.
Perfect. Well, what I was trying to say, everyone, was the introduction. And who we have today is we have Pálína of Farmlifeiceland. She's a bit of a social media celebrity. So if you want to say hello there, Pálína.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about all things Iceland, all things farming in Iceland, and I very much look forward to it. For those of you that are big fans of sheep, and in particular quite cute sheep, because I think Icelandic sheep are very much under that bracket, I'm sure you either follow Pálína already, or if you don't, make sure to do so. So it's Farmlifeiceland on Instagram. It is just an album of cute photos. An album of cuteness is what it basically is. But I'm sure there's a lot more behind the camera. So we'd like to quite like to get into that. We were just talking before. Pálína was saying that she has been in Scotland at one point in her life. But could you just tell us a bit about yourself, Pálína? Where in Iceland you come from, and just a bit of background on you.
Yes, I am 30 years old. And I grew up on a farm in South Iceland, about an hour from the capital, Reykjavik. And yeah, my parents aren't farmers, but my uncles are. And my mom grew up on a farm, and my parents built a house on that farm. So they do other things, but I grew up in that environment. So I've always helped out as much as I can, gotten responsibilities as I grew and as I could handle them. So yeah, I have that sort of farming background, but also I have traveled a lot. And my parents took me and my brother to Scotland when I was 10 in 2001, and sent us to primary school. My mom was doing some work with Scottish Natural Heritage. Do you know that?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, of course you do. Yes, I was doing some work with them, and we just all decided to go to Scotland, and allowing me and my brother to, go to school there and see what life is like in another country. And yeah, I studied psychology, have a master's degree in psychology. So I've been splitting my life between Reykjavik and the farm since I was 16, because I had to move to Reykjavik to continue my studies.
Yeah.
So that's still what I do.
Excellent. So first off, how did you enjoy Scotland? Have to ask.
I loved it. We're planning to go back next June. We've obviously been a few times since we were there, but it's been a while now. And I'm very excited to go back and visit that little village we lived in and just travel around the country.
Yeah, it's a pretty country, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Probably haven't done enough travelling around it myself, to be honest, embarrassingly. You mentioned you've done a bit of travelling. Where have you travelled yourself?
Well, when I was 20, I moved to Paris for half a year to study a little French, and I was an au pair. And then I went around the world with my best friend, and we spent a month in Togo in Africa, working at a children's home. And then we did the usual, went to Thailand, traveled around Thailand for 2 months, and then we went to the US and road tripped a bit for 3 weeks. And then last year, 2020, great year for traveling, obviously. And January, my girlfriend and I, we planned a 4-month trip. That turned out to be a 2-month trip, obviously, with everything that happened. But we managed to visit Bali, Australia, New Zealand, and Taiwan before we had to, run home. And so those have been my, major trips. But I've also traveled a lot around Europe, and yeah, that's about it.
Have you had any standout favourites?
New Zealand.
Everyone says
I've really, really enjoyed traveling around there, and I got to visit a few farms, which was a lot of fun. Obviously, everything there is quite different from Iceland, and I also loved Australia, and yeah, I like most of the places that I've been to.
Yeah, it's seeing the world's amazing. I say amazing as if I've done it. I haven't done it. It must be, and I probably should, to be honest. Is your girlfriend? Does she enjoy the farm?
Yeah, well, she is. Well, not. I was going to say born and bred in Reykjavik, but that's not true because she was born in America and she lives in the UK. But after that, she's born and bred in Reykjavik, so this is a new reality to her. But she's been learning a lot, and she enjoys it, and she comes there often and helps out and just hangs out. So this is a whole new world for her, really. But I enjoy, showing her everything that there is at the farm.
Yeah, it's quite fun. I mean, my girlfriend never been in a farm before. She was on ours, and it's quite fun sort of showing it, and someone seeing a totally new world. It's cool.
Yeah.
You said you went to uni to study psychology. So was that all done in Reykjavik, or I've probably butchered that name as well? But
well, when I was 16, I wanted to go to the next step above primary school in Iceland, and to do that, I went to Reykjavik. So that's 4 years from 16 to 20, sort of junior college. I don't know what to call it. Just a step before uni, really. But yeah, I went to Reykjavik for that for 4 years, and then traveled for a year, and then continued in Reykjavik and started studying psychology.
And do you work inside? Use that degree at the minute, or?
Yeah, sort of. I oversee. I'm head of special education at a school at the moment.
Excellent.
So yeah.
I bet that's a really rewarding job.
Well, it is. Yes, the kids obviously are amazing.
Yeah. No, it sounds it. I'm obviously going to get into the farm and stuff, but I felt when I had someone from Iceland on, there was a few questions I had to ask.
Okay.
When we were there, we were proper touristing. We were going to all the tourist bits and all that, like going snowmobiling on the glacier, going to the Golden Circle, all that sort of stuff. And one thing we noticed was there was a lot of horses in the fields.
Yeah.
Are they farmed, or are they used for the farm, or what's the sort of deal there?
A bit of both. Most people who have horses just have them for fun, for riding them. Obviously, there are a few horse farms that do tourist trips, horse rentals, stuff like that, and do trips. But most are just hobby horses, really. We have a few horses, and we just use them, sometimes for gathering. And the whole roundup thing, when we gather the sheep in the autumn, that's done by horses because, well, it would be a lot to walk all of that on your 2 feet.
Yeah.
And you can't do it by car or, any sort of motor vehicle because the landscape is not made for that.
Yeah. No, that's another thing I quite like to get into is that gather. It sounds like a great time. Another thing, I'm probably going to sound like such a basic person with these questions. Is probably what someone that's not from Iceland asks everyone from Iceland, but I felt like I had to. I couldn't tell you what year it was, but obviously the volcano in Iceland that shut down Europe, I'm not even going to try and say it. It's like Eyjafjallajökull or something like that.
Yeah, Eyjafjallajökull.
I was miles off.
Yep.
Is that something that is there sort of minor eruptions here and there, or is it not something? Are you just sort of used to it not happening, or what?
Well, in Iceland, we have a volcano erupt every few years, and obviously, when it happens, you follow the news and you want to know what's going on, because some of our volcanoes can be a real danger to, depending on where the wind blows and what kind of an eruption we have. It can be dangerous. We have one going on now that started in the spring, and that's not been a threat really, except for the road that is there and something like that, but nothing major really. And at first we called it a tourist eruption, and I think everyone who can walk a few kilometers has been to see it. But then we have the big ones like Katla, and when Katla erupts, that could be really bad.
Right.
And we're sort of waiting for that one to go up.
And is that really bad for all of Iceland and further, or just sort of the places nearby?
It just depends on the eruption. Like Eyjafjallajökull stopped air traffic around Europe.
Yeah.
And, Katla and Hekla have often, just wiped out farming areas.
Yeah. I don't know if this is the case, but when Iceland is so volcanic, ash is normally quite a good fertilizer. Is the ground good because of that or bad because of it?
I guess it depends on the amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you get too much and it sort of just drowns everything, at least it's not going to be good for a while. But honestly, I don't really know.
No, it's just thinking, to be honest with you. You'll be right though. If it gets a sort of sprinkling of ash, that'll probably be quite good. But if it completely drowns it,
yeah, exactly. And also, if a volcano spews ash in the spring or in the summer, that's really bad, because then all the animals are outside grazing, and you don't want them to eat it.
Yeah.
So, volcanoes should really erupt in the autumn.
If they're going to go, just tell them to wait.
Just wait. Yeah.
Well, if only it was that easy. You've mentioned that the stock are out in the winter time. Are in the winter time, out in the spring and summer. Could you give us a bit of an idea of how the sort of calendar year of sheep production works in Iceland?
Okay, let's start at the breeding season, because that's the beginning of everything. But that's during the end of the year. That's in December, around Christmas. So the breeding season is then, and then we take our rams out and just let them walk among the sheep, and they figure out who wants them.
Yeah.
And obviously, as you know. And then, January and February, quite routine, just, feeding the sheep. Because they stay inside during winter because, well, it's Iceland. So we feed them during winter. And they obviously go out if the weather is good and if they want to go out, because usually they don't want to go outside. I let them out and they run out and they're like, "Ooh, it's cold, let's go back in." So it doesn't really last. So they just prefer to stay inside. And then in March, April, we shear them again for spring. And then lambing season starts in May and lasts through May.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, it's the busiest time of the year. We don't sleep very much. We work a lot. We're always tired, but it's fun. It's the best time. We'd never miss it. And all of that. And then as the ewes have lambs, they stay inside for a few days with the lambs, just so that we can make sure, everything is good. The lambs are okay, all of that. And then a few days later, they go outside, and then they're just out until next winter. So they stay in our grazing areas until early July, yeah. And then when the vegetation in the highlands is ready, we drive them up to the highlands. And the highlands of Iceland is divided into many afréttir, which is what we call it. And every municipality, every farming area really has one of those, in the highlands around their area.
Yeah.
So difficult to explain it because I don't have any of the words. They're all like old Icelandic words.
What we would probably call is we would probably call it here as like common marching. It's sort of like it's like a shared ground, isn't it? Have I got that right?
It's shared among all the farmers in our municipality, but sheep from other areas cannot go in there because of disease control. And, sheep are not allowed to roam all of the country. So we have, we have natural barriers like big rivers that keep them in our area. And our rettir is huge. So they have plenty of space and they don't use nearly all of it. And they spend the summers up there, they use with their lambs, and they just do whatever they want and eat whatever they want and stay wherever they want, really. So I think they have a wonderful time. And then in September, we go and gather them. And that takes 9 days, done by horses. And it's a big area to cover. So, and then we push them all down towards the farming area. And then we have rettir, which is when everyone has to find their. So that's sort of like a festival. It's the best day of the year. And, our whole family comes and helps. And a lot of our friends come. And you're just running around trying to figure out who's yours. And the rettir.
And do you have...
Sorry,
on you go.
I was just going to say the
you finish.
the rettir is there is a big circle in the middle where all of the sheep goes, and then each farm has one section on the outer circle, so we can drag our sheep into there.
That just sounds like great fun.
It's so much fun. But obviously you have to remember not to, terrorize the sheep. Don't make them feel scared or anything. There are always a few kids who have no idea how to do it and they just run around pulling them, which is not how you do it.
Do you have to use tags or what's the identification?
Yeah, every sheep has to be tagged. I think it's required by law. So they have both just a number that is just a number within our flock so that we know, who's who. Although we don't really need that because my uncle knows them all he just knows them all and knows everything now. But it's good with the lambs because we haven't seen them since spring. So we have no idea what they look like. So they need the tags for sure. And then there is another number that basically tells you the number of the farm, the municipality, and the county. Mm-hmm. So it's a good system.
So we have that. It's called CPH number, which is County Parish Holding Number, which sounds like the exact same thing, just different words.
Yeah.
So is like once all the sheep are at the right home, is there just a big celebration then? Is that how that works?
Yeah. All of our people come to our farm and we just eat together, sing, and just have a great day.
Yeah.
And some of our friends stay the whole weekend, and it's just it's the best weekend, really.
It sounds it. What did you say that area that's sort of shared was called?
Rettir.
Right, okay. And how big is it? Have you got an idea of size or just massive?
Massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right below the glacier that is in the center of Iceland, and it goes quite far down. Okay. I could probably find a picture of where it is.
It would be really cool actually for the sort of, even for the thumbnail on YouTube. It'd be quite cool.
You can see this picture here. No, you can't really.
Right. Oh yes,
it's Iceland.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's Iceland. It's the red area, and people live in the bottom part, this section here, 1/4 of this area, I guess. Yeah, now you can see it probably.
That's better. Yeah, that's better. That's mental. That is mental.
So it's quite big.
I think that's the one, the glacier, I think that's just south of the glacier that we went on to. I'm just trying to. Is it
You
Lang
probably-
Your Cool or something? It's called Lang.
No, that's the big one. Nobody goes on that one really. No
Right, okay.
touring trips. So yeah. So
Got
you
you.
have a rough idea of how big it is.
That's crazy. But 9 days seems impressive now. Like, like to gather that in 9 days seems impressive now, to be honest.
Yeah, but
That's
it's handy that it's like narrow and long, so you can just start at the top and then just push them down. And
You
we've
make
done
that
it the
sound
same
easy.
way. It's been done the same way for centuries. So like my great-great-great-grandparents or my great-great-great-grandfather, because women didn't do this back in the day, he did it the same way as it's done today. Mostly at least.
That's brilliant. And do you use dogs? Or
there are always a few dogs that go, I think, but I don't know how much they're used. But I'm guessing if they're good at gathering, I guess they're used. I've never done the gathering myself. I don't like riding horses. But I do hike there a lot, but not during the gathering time.
Just a bit too slow for it when you're hiking as opposed to the horses.
Yeah.
Very good. So they've been away since well, they've been outside for a while, but they've been sort of away entirely from you since early July. So when they come back in, is there a big push to sort of get them dosed and jagged for vaccinated, or what's the sort of crack there?
Vaccinated.
Yes, I'm conscious the Wi-Fi is not great. They're probably just the sort of.
Oh, your sound sometimes breaks. It's fine. No, when they get back, they just go to our grazing area and stay there until we take them in.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And are they sold nearby?
Yes, they just the slaughter season takes them to Selfoss, which is the nearest town. It's about half an hour away.
Okay.
And I hate that part. I really don't enjoy that, and I'm not home a lot during that because, well, I just don't like it for obvious reasons.
Yeah, and I think it's why it's happening. It's the reason
exactly.
we're doing. It's for food, but it is a tricky part. I think we're all in that boat thinking that.
Nobody enjoys it. It would be weird if you enjoyed sending them away. Then you probably shouldn't be doing this if you have, pleasure out of that. But obviously it is a part of it all. And it has to be done with respect. And what we do is just try to give them the best life that we can. And that's how it is.
Yeah, which I think's got to be the message that we give out, because it's true. And sometimes we're maybe tarred with brushes that's not the case. But I think the fact that none of us like it is proof in itself that we're doing the best we can for the animal. Once they're in, are they in pens, or are they just in a large free shed, or how does that sort of work?
The rams are in pens because we can't have them with the ewes, during winter, obviously. But the ewes are just, they have big pens that they can just freely go around and choose where they want to stay. Except for the lambs that are kept, we keep them separate because they're smaller, so that they can just be with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, they're just together, all of them.
Do you pregnancy scan them? So
no, we don't. But I know many people in Iceland do it, but my uncle has never done it, and he doesn't really see a reason to.
Could you tell us a little bit about the breed, Pálína? Maybe what they look like, what they're sort of known for, that sort of thing. Just a little.
Well, they are cute.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The Icelandic sheep has been in Iceland since settlement in 874. So they're European short-tailed sheep, but they've been isolated in Iceland for centuries, for a very long time. So they've sort of adapted and developed as, as Icelandic sheep. So they are perfect for Iceland. And importing sheep to Iceland is illegal. And that's because we want to protect our breed.
Yeah.
And they probably couldn't handle some diseases that are abroad because they've been so sheltered. And well, they are rather small, at least compared to the sheep that I met in Australia. And the wool is 2-layered with like a softer inner layer that keeps them warm and a more rough outer layer that is wind and waterproof.
Right.
And they have a lot of colors. Like,
oh, do they?
Of colors. Yeah. So many. You should Google Icelandic sheep colors.
That's so ignorant of me. I've only seen white.
Oh, we have black, brown, gray, and all sorts of mixes of those colors. We try to keep as many, we want our sheep house to be colorful, but yeah, we don't have every variation, obviously, but we tried for years to get a brown lamb, like with getting a ram that could possibly carry those genes, and made him with a ewe that could possibly have those genes, but it never worked until a few years ago, and now we have a few.
They're I mean, we don't have Icelandic sheep, but this year I think we had 3 brown lambs. They're just cute because they're different, aren't they?
Yeah. It's fun to have, variety.
How many sheep have you got then?
We have 200 and something winter fed, because we used to have more, but we're sort of trying to make it a little smaller. But we have a mixed farm, so we have cows as well, and about 250 winter fed ewes, I think, that lamb, and then a few lambs every year, but around that number, which is very average for Iceland. Like the biggest farm in Iceland is so much smaller than the biggest farms abroad.
Yeah, and I think with that comes a lack of intensity, comes sometimes an increase in quality. You mentioned, and it's you almost sort of jumped ahead of my questions. It was my next question was, is there any other breeds of sheep? But there's obviously not. Has that been illegal for a long time? Or?
Yes, I don't know for how long, but that's how it is. Yeah.
And you said sort of the reason for that is the obvious reason is keep the sort of breed as it is, and also diseases might come in and sort of wipe out the population. But is there any diseases that you guys are working against constantly, or? Well,
there is that, which I'm not sure how to say in English, but it's a sort of neuro disease that hits your brain and spine, just the neurons, and we've had a few outbreaks of that in different parts of the country in the past. And that's why the whole country is divided into sections that sheep can't go between. Yeah. Because if this disease is diagnosed at a farm, they cut all the sheep, which is everyone's biggest nightmare, obviously. It will be awful. But at least then it would be isolated to that section and it wouldn't spread around the country.
Yeah.
So that's
I'm just wondering from your description if it's like an ovine spongiform encephalopathy, which is like we had a bad one in cattle before, but I'm just guessing. It'd be quite interesting if you could message me after, just so I could have a look to see what the sort of
It's called scrapie.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. So you've obviously been in the farm, sort of living between the farm and your sort of 9 to 5 job there, Pálína. You started posting pictures on Instagram. How long ago did that begin? Or was maybe you didn't begin on Instagram? I don't actually know.
No, it was Instagram. I think it was 5 years ago.
Okay.
Something like that, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's well, what are you sitting at? Is it 77,000 followers or something like that?
Something around that, yeah.
Did you
More
ever
than I expected? No. Never.
No.
It's a pleasant surprise that people like sheep.
I think I mean, you've just looking at it. I'm on it at the minute, just scrolling through. It's the stuff that folk love to see.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff I get most engagement on is cuddling a lamb or whatever, and it's just nice to see, isn't it?
People like to see a connection between an animal that is it's not usually a pet, it's not a dog or a cat. It's a sheep. And to see a connection between, a farm animal and people, I think that's something that people like. And people, like sheep are not represented enough. So, people don't know enough about sheep.
Yeah, and it's good. And, we've seen all, certainly over here, we see lots of different pictures of, the breeds we have here, blackies and stuff like that. But there's very few pages out there that are dedicated almost exclusively to one breed. And you've certainly done that. And it's a breed that some people will be aware of, but a lot of us aren't. And it's interesting just to see the sort of cycle, the calendar, and how that sort of works. When you started posting it, did you expect it to be not as big, I know, as you said, but did you expect it to be as common that you'd be posting this sort of stuff, or did you just do it for a laugh at first and then see what came of it?
Well, I had this idea that I should maybe make, a separate account, because I was, I had my own Instagram, like most people do. And I kept posting a lot of sheep content. And I was like, maybe my friends don't enjoy this, but maybe someone else will. And so I made a separate account after having my friend telling me, just do it. It's okay. Just do it. What's the worst that can happen? So I made it. And ironically, I think most of my friends follow it anyway.
Yeah.
And it just, it started growing and it kept growing, which was nice. And then I realized that, for many people who have no idea what farming in Iceland is like, I am their only source of that information. I'm their window into that life. And I quite like that. And I like sharing this with people who have very different lives, in other places, around the world. And if you have time to scroll all the way back, which you probably don't, you can see that, my content has, gotten a lot better.
Good.
But yeah, it's been fun. It also, now I have so many pictures of my sheep, and that's fun too for me to have, in the future. And I think, well, my friend once said to me, because we're always hearing about this, that social media is fake. Everyone is just showing their best side, and everyone is, photoshopping their pimples away or something. And my friend said, most people, they sort of upgrade their life through social media, but you actually do the opposite. You downgrade it. You're just, covered in shit and slime, and you're posting that. So I guess, the stories that I tell, it's just reality, and I like sharing that.
Real is more interesting than that.
Yeah.
Well,
and I could post exclusively, cute lamb faces and me cuddling them, but that's not all there is. There is a lot more. There is heartbreaks when your favorite lamb death when you arrive in the morning, and when your pet lamb gets sick out of nowhere and it dies, and it's your number one Instagram sheep, and the lamb has fans around the world, and just everyone is devastated. Sharing those moments, as heartbreaking and difficult it can be, that's rewarding too.
Yeah.
Because it's nice to share the good and the bad, and be able to talk about how difficult the slaughter season is, because I want to talk about it. I don't want to shut up about it and just hide it away. And
there's so many, like, slaughter is a tough thing to talk about. There's, and there's a lot of people who are vegan and vegetarian, and I completely understand why, if it's that reason. I totally get it. I've never argued against it. No. But if someone asks you to defend it, it's very hard if you just purely try and defend that part. But the reason we're farming, the reason, you're on a farm, the reason you're posting about farming, the reason I'm doing this podcast about farming, the reason all farming happens is to feed people. And the really good result of protein on people's table the world over has that one dark truth about animals has to be slaughtered for that. But as you said earlier, you put it really well. We give them as good a life for that period as we possibly can. As you said, up on the hill, I'll probably say the word wrong, but up on the hill and living their best life, and we don't even know what they're doing. They're just, it's as natural as it can be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and what I always say to defend it, I guess, is that people eat meat. We're still there, and I have no idea what happens in the future. But today, people eat meat, and this is a hot topic. From absolutely eating exclusively meat and hating vegans to, being very vegan and telling everyone about it and hating everyone who's not. Or, there's the polar opposite, and then there's a lot of people around the middle who can have a conversation. But these two can't do that, I think. And what I say is that, people eat meat today. And regardless of what happens later, while people eat meat, there has to be an option to eat meat that is raised the way that we do. And factory farming is terrible. And I'm on the vegan side on that thing. That has to be stopped. And we collectively, we probably need to eat a lot less meat than we do, the average person. But that's a fact. And we have to adapt with everything that is happening in the world, and reducing meat consumption, that's a part of that. But for us who eat meat, we have to choose what kind of meat we eat, because as a consumer, every choice that I make stands for something. Mm-hmm. And if I just close my eyes and go to the nearest shop and get whatever there is, that's not how we want to live.
Yeah, and
at least that's not how we should.
Yeah, I think you've put that really well. We're eating meat at the minute, and we've got to be, if that meat market's there, we want to make it as good as it possibly can be, and maybe in the future we won't be eating it.
There is a lot of ugliness in the meat market and that industry, and being from Iceland, where farms are family sized in most cases, at least with sheep farming and milk production, that's a reality that I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
But for many, what you get at the shop comes from something like that. And, when I'm abroad, I don't want to support that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I just don't eat meat when I'm abroad because I don't want to support factory farming, because that's a disgusting thing. And
I mean, you've mentioned a lot of countries you've been in that's commonplace: Australia,
definitely,
US, that sort of thing. I think the argument for meat and animal products, for that fact, is if you look where your sheep are, you can't put wheat there, you can't put barley there, you can't put...
Exactly. Like when you live in Iceland, you can't take research from factory farms in America and apply that to the reality we live here, because that's just not accurate. That's not science. If you want to back up your opinions up with data or statistics or anything, it has to be from something that is similar or the same. And I would love to do a big research on how Icelanders should eat and taking everything into an account. And also, if you farm where I live and somewhere else in the country, it's probably going to be a bit different because of how far the sheep are driven or how good the land is for them and stuff like that. Quite later. I forgot what I was going to say.
We were just talking about the fact that it's the hills in Iceland are different.
And when you're comparing like eating a kilo of meat compared to like eating a kilo of beans, when you live in Iceland, you have to take into account like where do the beans come from. And I would love to know if it's actually better for the world if I eat stuff that is made in China and shipped all the way to Iceland, or if I eat a sheep that is raised in my garden.
exactly.
or my sheep. Like, I doubt that it's going to be better for the world if I eat something from China. And plus, you don't even know how that's made. You have no idea if human rights are, violated or not, or if they're using some substances that I don't want in my body. But I know exactly what the sheep ate. I know exactly where it went and how it lived.
Well, just on that, what are the sheep being fed? Obviously, when they're outside, it's essentially just fauna, whatever's there, whatever's on the hill. But when they're inside, is it silage and concentrate based, or what are they?
It's just hay from our fields that we cut during the summer and put in bales.
So it's purely the hay and water that's brought.
And they get a little supplement during breeding season and lambing season, which is minerals and vitamins. Candy things. Almost
everything is produced in Iceland, even the feed that goes into them. Yeah, so there's no discussion on that. It's clearly on that side of it. Just out of interest, this isn't me asking your specific diet, but is there quite a lot of seafood consumed in Iceland as well, I take it? Because when I was there, I felt like seafood was pretty dominant in restaurants.
Well, Icelanders eat more chicken, I think, than they do eat sheep. And I have a very inaccurate image of what people eat, I think, because most of the meat that I eat is from our farm, so it's cheap.
Yeah.
I rarely buy meat, and during autumn we just make enough that we don't have to buy any.
Yeah.
So, but I think a lot of people here have stopped eating meat. That's obvious. Right. There is a lot of vegan options everywhere, but I think young people eat a lot of chicken if they eat meat, and beef.
Yeah.
But less sheep on the ship. Like, if you're choosing meat, I think we could market the lamb more better.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't really know much about this.
Is there? As this kind of goes slightly off topic, and you might not know the answer, Pálína, but is there a lot of chickens reared in Iceland, or are they brought in?
What, chickens?
Yeah.
I think they're mostly, grown in Iceland, raised in Iceland.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, it was just
you can't. Well, it's not legal to import all meat. There are some restrictions, like fresh meat. You can import frozen chicken, I know, and there is some of that. But
So when you said it was illegal to import sheep, I just assumed you meant live animals for breeding.
Yes, I did. But we also have restrictions regarding importing meat.
Oh, wow.
Like, if you have fresh meat imported, that can also carry stuff.
Yeah. Iceland's not EU.
EU, no.
No. Is it
but
part
we're in Schengen and something else, EEA.
Right. EEA, that's it. Economic area. One, yeah.
I think we're in that, or EES.
One of them. I don't know what we're in anymore. In Britain, I don't know what we're left with these days, to be honest. I don't know. I'm not up on all that stuff, to be honest.
I don't know. Yes, we are in the EEA.
Right.
Whatever that means.
It's the economic area.
Okay.
Yeah, similar benefits to EU, but I don't know. I mean, that's going into a tangent that none of us really know what we're talking about. So probably like that one. It's been really good to chat. It's been interesting, sort of a page that I've followed on and off for some time, actually, talking to the person behind it. So it's been really cool. Yeah. Exactly. Two things I finish every podcast with is, first off, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And second off, if you had any tips for folk coming into farming, what would they be?
5 years. That's a good question. I don't have a 5-year plan. Maybe we will have a kid. I don't know. Maybe.
Very exciting. Lovely.
A little farming kid. Hopefully COVID will be over.
Oh, don't even say it. Surely. Surely.
Maybe not. We'll be vaccinated like 16 times or something. I'm getting another shot tomorrow.
Oh, are you? Is that your second one? Is it?
Well, I got the Janssen, and we were only supposed to have one of that, but turns out they want to give us a little boost, so we're getting that tomorrow. So.
Well, I mean, I'm so scared of needles. I fainted and was sick 3 times before my second jab. So.
Yeah, I hate needles, but I got so sick after the first shot that I'm just worried about how tomorrow evening will be. If it will be anything like it was, I'll be miserable. But yeah, it's better than getting COVID or getting COVID badly. So I'm happy to do it. And getting into farming, think of the animals first. Just remember, it's not just something that is your job, but it's a living being with everything that comes with being alive. And get to know them, because all the work that comes with farming can be exhausting, and this is not a way to get rich, obviously, but if you get to know the animals, I think you will enjoy it even more.
Very good points. Pick
a few favorites and let them live for as long as they can.
Yeah. Okay.
And just keep them. Just, have a few ones that are just, VIP sheep.
See, I would struggle with that. We've got maybe 3 or 4 that come under that. We've got about 630-ish breeding ewes, and there's maybe 3 or 4 that come under that. And one was my partner's. She was called Emily, and the sheep, not my partner. And she had 17 lambs over like 5 years, and she was just like a queen. Like, she told us what to do, we didn't tell her what to do.
Yeah.
And when she died, man, it was so hard. Like, it was.
Yeah.
I felt terrible. I think we put her in lamb one too many times, and yeah, it was just. I think it makes it harder. Them.
It's a real grief that many people don't understand. Like, when you break down when your sheep dies, it's something that not many people can relate to. But people can relate if you talk about dogs. My oldest is 13 now, and she just went blind. But I hope she has a few more months or year in her. But they give so much joy. It's so much fun to be around them.
They are. I agree. I totally agree. And once you get really friendly with them, they get really confident and try and knock you over. At least yours are maybe a bit smaller. They're more going for the knees as opposed to just taking you out.
They just demand attention. I have one that is 2 years old, and she's deaf. So, and if you ignore her for a little bit, she's just scratching you nonstop until you give her all the attention.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No, not at all. It was a pleasure. And for those of you listening, this was actually supposed to be filmed in a couple of days, but Pálína was so excited.
Yes, I couldn't wait.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure. And check out Farmlifeiceland on Instagram if you want to follow Pálína and you somehow don't. And thank you all for listening. And hopefully we'll keep in touch, Pálína.
Yes, let's do that.